Guys, I really thought we had seen it all for 2021 from Arcade One Up, but it turns out there is at least one new title that was not rumored. Welcome back to Unqualified Critics. The new title, and you've probably seen it by now, is T2, Terminator 2, the arcade game. I have a few things to say on this, but before we do, there are a couple other listings that have since been pulled down. Now, the store in question is Indigo. I had never heard of it, but to look it up, it's a really big Canadian bookstore, and I guess they sell electronics too. So I think the prices we're looking at are actually in Canadian. So before you freak out at the $850, which given the recent happenings from Arcade One Up, I wouldn't blame you for freaking out, but that's really $675 or $676 in US dollars. But let's take a look too at Killer Instinct and Tron. Both listings have been pulled, so they clearly were published too early. Confusingly, they left up the Terminator listing. Not sure how much longer that'll be up. But we finally get some prices. So around $600 for Tron. Keep in mind, these exchanges are not an exact science. They may or may not sell it for exactly $610 in the US, but it gives you an idea. $600 for Tron, which I think is probably fair if they do well by the controls. And then Killer Instinct $670. Presumably this will have online. We know there's a bonus game they're going to include. We're not sure what that is yet. But then also we've got a little more conventionally, and I don't have a way to blow this picture up because, again, unfortunately, this link was shut down by Indigo, but this was posted by the Video Game Nut at the Arcade One Up Reddit. The Marvel vs. Capcom collection head-to-head. Looks pretty nice here with the blue trim. Really like the comic book panel style artwork on the side. And you guys know I'm a fan of the cocktail cabinet style, especially since they increased the height from 25 to 29 inches finally. So this is probably going to be pretty slick. I mean, again, my complaint with the Arcade One Up fighting cabinets is always, and this is true too for Killer Instinct, especially at $670, do you want to pay $600 to $700 for a cabinet that you have to go out and buy new replacement controls for? If they continue to use their existing standard of controls, in my opinion, they're not quite good enough for a fighting game. It's certainly playable, and I'm no fighting game expert by any means, but you really want good, responsive, tight controls. You also might have your own personal preference of which brands you want, or you might want the brands the original cabinets happen to have. Whatever it is, not a big deal when you spend $300-400, but when you're dropping $670 and then you got to go out and buy two new joysticks for $40 total, it's getting a little steep. But again, Tron at $600, I'm actually pleasantly surprised with that price point. And then let's look at Terminator 2. T2, the arcade game, $850, but again, that's $675 US dollars. And this introduces something new based on the description, and that is force feedback. And I'm sure that's just a basic rumble, which I believe is what the original had, right? It was just a simple rumble. It's been a few years since I played it, but there's then a big difference between this and the arcade. You probably already picked up on it. These light guns aren't actually pointed at the screen, which tells me that, yeah, they're light guns. They're not like a trackball style controller where you're really just mounted to the cabinet and you have to tilt it and get your action there. No, you have to take this out of the holster and aim it at the game. Might not be the worst thing in the world. This cabinet is narrower than original hardware, so if they truly were mounted in place, you would be pretty squished up against your friend that you're playing with. But at the same time, it's not completely arcade original. Notably, these pull cords do seem to be shorter by a lot, at least based on this image. And you never know if these images are renders or real photos. But based on this image, this cord is way shorter than Big Buck World. So, you know, they are going for that authentic stand right up on the screen style design. And they added force feedback, which is not really something I expected. So, you know, I'm sure the game will play just fine. At the end of the day, from a gameplay perspective, it's basically the same, except you can stand farther back if you want. Although I will say this is a slick design for the holsters, where it does at least look kind of like the original hardware where the guns are stuck in place. I find the kickplate design a little interesting. The interplay between the kickplate and the riser, not a big deal. Overall looks pretty cool, but you know, this big kind of goofy looking T2, that was on the original hardware and it was down at the bottom. I don't understand why they didn't just put that where the front of the riser is and then put a coin door here. I mean, once again, the inconsistency with the kickplate designs and the coin door. Also, I don't think we know what other game or games this comes with, but we do know there's a game selection menu. So presumably there are other titles, but I don't know what those are. Let me know below what you think they might be. And let me know what you guys think. 675 for a shooting game with force feedback. I think that's a little high, but not completely crazy, especially considering you'd buy it once and you don't really have to do anything else because, well, you're not going to be out replacing these light guns, and you probably couldn't even if you wanted to, based on those proprietary connections they use with those sending guns, as we learned from Buckworld. Thanks for watching, guys. Hit that like button if you enjoy this video, and I'll talk. Big shout out to all of my channel members. If you want to join Unqualified Critics, hit the red button below that says join, and thank you for watching.
Game over.